and welcome to the July 11th Kettleville Hills Board of Commissioners meeting. Welcome, and if you would please join us and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, of the United States of America, which stands one nation, under God, and liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item this evening on our agenda is the approval of the agenda.
So moved. I'll second.
Any discussion or comments?
Are we gonna, have the comments, anybody wants to speak about the dog issue, we can have that in the beginning like we normally do?
A public comment.
Okay.
Which would be next.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Additional discussion? All in favor? Please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. All right, so we'll move on to the first time that's set aside this evening for public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to the board about any topic to do so. I know we have intentionally scheduled tonight for under new business to talk about dogs on the beach, and looking by the number of faces in here, we probably have a handful of you, or the majority of you, that are here to speak to that topic, and that's great. This would be the time to do that under public comment. We do have a sign-up sheet that was started. We'll call from those names first, but if you did not sign up, that's okay. Then we will just call and you can raise your hand and we'll call you from the floor. So a couple of things about public comment time if you haven't spoken at public comment before. It may seem awkward, but it's not intended to be that way, but we do ask that you approach the podium and speak from there. When you go to speak, if you will identify yourself by name and address. It's okay if Kettleville Hills is not your permanent address, but we do ask you to share your address. We also ask that if you're speaking as an individual, if you would try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, you can keep those comments, if you would, please, to 5 minutes. And we put that time limit on there just because we do have, sometimes, like tonight, we have a lot of people in the room. We want to have an opportunity for anyone who wishes to share to feel free to do so, but to be mindful of the time, so we're not here till really late at night. That being said, I will, before we call the first person from the list, would like to say a couple of things about dogs, even though we're going to have a full discussion later on our agenda. This has been visited, this topic in general, in Kettleville Hills a number of times. In fact, a very dear friend of mine that used to be a commissioner that passed away this year had said at some time during your tenure, if you stay in office long enough, you will visit the topic of dogs on the beach. And he has surely been right. It's about 5 years, and this is the first time under my tenure that we're visiting this topic. And rightly so, because it is something that people are passionate about on both sides. And so when this was brought back up to us to address this or to look into it, we did what we should do, and we asked for your comments and from the public's comments. And so that's what the democracy process is like. And so we respect and understand that you're going to have both sides heard tonight. I ask all of you in the audience, and certainly we will do this as commissioners, to respect those that are speaking, even if it's an opinion that's different than yours, because that's the process and that's the society we live in. We are going to take everyone's comments into consideration. We also had a large number of emails that came in, and I appreciate those. I'm sure my fellow commissioners do as well. And it's exactly what we asked for. We asked for input, and so I thank you for taking your time to come here tonight and share with us. And for those of you who may have sent an email and are here, we really appreciate that. That being said, I will pause and we'll turn to the list, and we'll start calling from the list first.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, Howard Kimball.
Welcome, Howard.
Hi, my name is Howard Kimball. I live at 803 West Sportsman Drive. I want to speak on the issue of dogs on the beach. Let's keep the beach dog-free for a few hours a day for those that do not have or want to be around the dogs. And my next statement is that how can you control a dog from 30 foot away? because I heard some comments about, they turn them loose and let them run as long as they're within 30 feet of the owner. But most dogs you can't control from 30 feet away, especially if there's other dogs in the area. So I suggest that we leave the ordinance in place as is. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you, Mr. Kimball. Bruce Hilpert?
Hello, and thank you very much for letting me speak. My name is Bruce Hilpert. My permanent address is 501 East Radburn Street, Tucson, Arizona, but I own property on Princess Anne at 2nd Street, and I am fortunate enough to be retired and spend 4 months every year here, and almost every day I am on the beach. I am strongly opposed to this. I will confess, I'm not a dog owner. I'm very tolerant of dogs. My ex-wife was a dog owner and had many, many dogs. My daughter does. She visits. Dog stays at the beach. Why? Because we have very crowded beaches in some areas. At 2nd Street to 1st Street, I counted up today, we have over 140 condo units. We have 6 mini hotels with now 16 bedrooms. And it is very crowded. At high tide line, we have very little beach. We are sometimes literally 25 feet of beach at high tide, and we are packed. We regularly have violators. We do not have too many problems because we don't have many dogs. But I'm very concerned that when everyone is allowed to bring their dog, and I agree totally with the former speaker that when those dogs are allowed to run 30 feet from the owner, I suspect they might run 31 feet or 50 feet, and I might suspect that those dogs will congregate, and a good dog with a tooth can turn into a bad dog with a tooth just like that. That means we will have safety problems. Our beach is filled with toddlers. Many communities and a big park have a dog park where you can run loose. It's fenced. I don't see many people taking their toddlers and saying, let's go over and sit in the dog park. And I'm very concerned that our crowded beaches will turn into that kind of situation. We have 3 or 4 dogs and we have toddlers. They don't mix. And when they don't mix, I'm very concerned that the liability, the legal liability, will fall upon the town and upon the taxpayers. And the safety issues, the public health issues, pardon my English, but dog poop on the beach is a problem, especially when you have little kids running around. Dogs peeing on my beach towel is a big problem. So I see dogs there regularly, which means that people violate, and the more dogs, the more violations we will have. If we must have dogs on the beach, I would urge a compromise. If the beaches, if you want to.
Mr. Triple, we've hit the 3-minute mark, but
Okay,
Mayor.
could I say that designating an access where you have low density, a couple accesses, try it out there, see how it works.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Hilbert.
sir.
And Mr. Hilbert, you submitted an email as well, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
You submitted an email as well?
Yes, it had 6 bullet points.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to say, I have a petition with 30, I was a group representative. This is 38 tourists and residents.
Didn't mean to cut you off, you could
Okay.
have spoke a little longer.
No, I should have said that. 38 of them are dog owners, and they are opposed.
Okay, thank you.
Corey, either Harrison or Harbison, I'm not sure. Harbison. Corey?
Corey?
Yes, sir? I believe so. Mr. Harbison, are you here individually? Are you here speaking on behalf of just yourself? Thank you, sir.
My name is Edward McCoy Harbison. I live in Kill Double Hills, and I'm here to speak and oppose dogs being on the beaches. and I've got quite a list here. The first thing is the number of dogs that a person can bring on the beach. I know I sit on my porch a lot and I watch people go by, and some of them walk as many as 5 dogs. And the next thing is the health issue. We all know that dogs don't choose where they want to go to the bathroom, and they urinate and poop all over places, and that's not a good thing for children and people walking barefooted on the beaches. And the next thing is, are these dogs going to be muzzled? Because, you know, some dogs are of big size, and they walk up and jump on people. I know, I have a daughter that I don't go and visit because she has 3 dogs, and they jump up and push me down. So I think that is something that really needs to be considered. And the next thing is lawsuits. If a dog bites a person on the beach, who's going to be responsible? Is the town going to be responsible, or the owner of the dog, or who? Suppose the person is from out of state, or they don't claim to own the dog, then you've got a situation there that if someone is seriously hurt, and you know the dog may not have rabies shots. So it's a lot of, I could probably go on for quite some time about this issue. And the next thing, it would be a lot of work for the lifeguards and the police department. The lifeguards should not be distracted from what they're doing. And the police department, you don't want to tie them up in other words, you don't want to create new problems for them to be involved with. And the next thing is a lot of people are not as responsible as some others are. And they won't let their dog run on the beach because they think everybody loves that dog. And that's not true. Since I've become disabled, I'm quite frightened of
Got about 10 seconds,
animals.
sir.
And the next thing is stray dogs. If you pass this, you will be opening the doors for people to bring stray dogs they don't any longer want, and leave them on the beach. And then you got people, little children, who run around on the beach, and they should be the ones enjoying it, them and their families. And food. And some dog trying to smell something good and wanting to get in a person's food. And so, you know, I just don't see any way that anyone should allow dogs on the beach. Now, I do agree that...
Mr. Harbison, we're about a minute over now. I said we're about sorry, I don't think you heard me the first time.
I can't hear.
I said we're about a minute over time now.
I can't hear.
Time's up.
Time's up.
Our time's up.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Richard Probst.
Thank you. My name is Richard Probst. I live at 1806 Upper Dune in Kill Devil Hills. And as far as the dogs on the beach, I'm not so much concerned about dogs on the beach because we take our dog down there every morning. My wife does. My main concern is the control of the dogs. I feel that they should not be let off a leash. Since we've lived here, my dog has been attacked 4 times by unleashed dogs. The last one was last Thursday morning on the beach. You never know what your dog is going to do versus the other dog. My dog used to be a very sociable dog, but since she's been attacked 4 times, she doesn't want another dog around her, okay? And we have warned people about that, but they don't seem to understand. They want to turn the dogs loose on the beach, they want to run over and try to play with the other dogs and so forth. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for the people. When my dog was attacked the other morning, the other guy's dog had my wife on the beach, on the ground. And once they got them separated, his comment to her was, "It's okay, I've got my dog, you can go now." No apology, no nothing. When she confronted him, he grabbed his dog and took off, left her sitting on the beach with a bloody t-shirt, and she never did find him. We did report to the animal control, they did do a report on it. But if dogs are allowed on the beach, they need to be on leash, and the leash laws do need to be enforced. So, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And Mrs. Probst?
Sesame Hill already spoke for me.
Okay, all right. John Arndt.
My name is John Arndt of 2023 Wrightsville, Philadelphia Hills, and I don't have an opinion about dogs, and my wife would have a problem thinking I don't have an opinion about anything. But the reason I'm here is to thank everybody, commissioners, street committee, Steve, who's not here tonight, I did talk to him this morning actually, Tony, Pete, everybody who had anything to do with the street improvement on Wrightsville Boulevard. It happened basically over the winter time. I wasn't here, but it is a big, big improvement and very much appreciated. I came to a few meetings trying to plead my case, probably wasn't very nice, but it got done, and I wanted to come here and thank everybody in person. That job well done, very much appreciated. My neighbors appreciate it, I appreciate it. It's a very nice street, and in particular, which I wasn't expecting, was the improvement to 8th Street. From west of the bypass to the beach road, excellent condition. Hopefully, with everything that I was told that was done underground, the drainage and so on and so forth, hopefully that'll correct the problems that I think we had. So, no more opinions. Thank you very much. It has been very much appreciated. Again, proud to live on that street. Neighbors and the company have remarked how nice it is, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sir. All right, well, we're at the end of the list, so I guess we'll open up to anybody in the audience who would like to come up and speak. All right, yes, sir, I saw that hand first.
Hi, my name's Robert Reese. We have a cottage at 2807 Virginia Deer Trail. Therefore, part of the beach is our backyard. Since the 4th of July, in what I would consider my backyard, I've had beer cans, beer bottles, cigarette butts, cigar butts, leftover refuse from fireworks, various other things that people don't bother to clean up after themselves. We occasionally go to a park in the C&O Canal National Park in Maryland, where they now have a policy that you only should leave footprints. You're supposed to take all your trash away and remove things. Everything, don't leave anything behind. We need a similar policy on our beach. The rules regularly are disobeyed. We just had an incident with our neighbors who had a dog that was let loose with a 30-foot leash running around. He yaps at people, it barks at people. We don't need that. We don't need dogs just allowed to run on the beach, because we see that, I've seen that all the time. People let their dogs run, they're walking along, the dog's behind them, the dog decides to do something, and that's just left. We can't have dog excrement on the beach. It needs to be removed. We have children running around in bare feet. We have a lot of people running around in bare feet, and that's a health hazard. We really need to figure out a way to make our visitors respect the beach for what it is. It's people's backyards. I don't go into other people's backyards. I don't leave trash in their backyards. I don't dig holes in their backyards and not fill them in. And I don't take my dog there and let it urinate on their pilings or deposit their stuff in the rear yard. I would really do not want to see this proposal pass. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. All right, show of hands again. Right here.
Hi, I'm Ann Wickstrom, and I live on 314 Gunnis Drive in Kill Devil Hills. I would like to see the city allow dogs on the beach. I think the fact that some dog owners have not been responsible or not responsible doesn't mean that everyone should be penalized any more than some people that may not watch their children or leave litter. Those people are not behaving responsibly, and it doesn't mean that everybody will behave that way. I do think 30 foot is a long leash. We take our dog to the beach. We don't go to Kill Devil Hills Beach because we do respect the law. We go to Nag's Head. And I have seen people take their dogs off the leash, so I think it needs to be enforced. There should be the leash law, but it hasn't, to me, seemed to be a problem there. I don't know how it affects the lifeguards, if that's been a problem for them. There are a lot of issues, but I think that a lot of families, their pet is part of the family, it's part of a day at the beach, enjoying it, and if we can have rules that will encourage them to be respectful and responsible about the beach, we should do that. You can't disallow every kind of behavior for fear of something could happen, or we would legislate everything out of existence for the danger. There's some danger in everything. People could drown, all kinds of things are dangerous. But I think it's important to have rules about it and to enforce those rules and hope that people will be respectful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you, yeah, I thought you had.
Uh-huh.
I'm Nancy Turney. I live in KDH. I've lived on the Outer Banks for more than 20 years now. I have a little doggie who I take to the beach every morning. And I think that the dog laws should remain as they are. In the over 20 years I've been here, I've seen too many dogs suffering in the heat of the day. And I haven't seen any signs of water or shade for the dogs. And I just don't think that there are enough owners of the dogs who think rationally about that, to just bring them. And they have this long hair, and I just want to pick them up and put them in my car and take them home. But of course, I don't do that. But that's how I feel about daytime. I think it should stay just the way it is. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right.
Hi, my name is Joanne Frazier. For past 4 years, I bought a house about 4 years ago down here and moved here permanently a year ago. And I have to confess, one of the reasons that I did move here is because my dog loves the beach. We walk in the mornings, and if we want to, we go to another, we go down to Nag's Head if we want to go during the day. Some of the things that have occurred to me are, I actually feel penalized when the tourists are here. It's okay to bring the dog during the rest of the year, but during tourist season, we, and I say we proudly because I am so proud to be a local now, we pay taxes, we're the ones that go clean the beach up, and yet our dogs are not permitted there on the beach. And like someone said earlier, I don't want to be held responsible for other people not taking care of their dogs. Yes, enforce the rules, that whatever they are. My dog's really well behaved. All she cares about basically is her ball and me. And she is so well behaved. I would love to just go to the beach and just sit with her during the day and have her on her leash, and she would just lie right next to me. Like I said, I do feel penalized when the tourists are here, and they're not the ones that are taking care of the beach. And I take a lot of pride in the beach, and I do clean up after my dog. So I definitely think that the rules should be changed. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Brady. Yes, sir. In the back.
Hi, my name is Jeff Fabricant. I'm not a resident, but my company owns and operates the John Yancey Hotel, which is not far from the NAGS headline. My comments sort of related more from the out-of-town perspective, but I think the law causes a lot of confusion with visitors, and dogs are allowed on the beach, unlike what some people said, but it's just during the day. And so I think the timing maybe could be adjusted if that's a middle ground, because we have to sort of refer people to go to NAGS Head or Kitty Hawk, where the laws are a lot more lenient than Kill Devil Hills. So I think that would be helpful to sort of make that similar. The objection about, potential pets going on the beach and whatnot, I think could be mitigated like we do on our property by having little Fido stations, maybe increasing the fines. Clearly the police are already policing not allowing pets, so maybe they could be also focused on that. The third issue is our property line technically goes to the mean high water mark, and this is an issue that was brought up with past town attorneys, my dad brought up, and we tell guests, you can take your pets on our dune. And, well, where's the dune? Where does that end? And I think that causes a lot of confusion. Even if pets aren't allowed during the day on the beach, they're allowed on our dunes, and they're allowed on sort of the oceanfront area. And we've had issues with the police, have told guests, yeah, well, you're gonna get a ticket, even though they're on our side of the property line or our side of the dune line or the mean high water mark. So I think that issue, hopefully something that you all can explore. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not sure about the liability concerns, but we certainly are a pet-friendly property. Pets are a huge part of, people's families, as someone else mentioned, and so I would just suggest that for your consideration. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Claire Shewell. I live at 1201 West Sportsman. I am a fanatic dog lover, but I am against the dogs being on the beach. I work across the street from the beach, and during the day, I see dogs back and forth all day. Our summers down here are very hot. The streets are extremely hot. Dogs' paws get burned so easily. A lot of people don't realize this, just like with the ice in the winter. The sand gets very hot. We, as humans, can't have trouble walking back and forth to our car without flip-flops. I just don't think people realize that. And one other lady said she sees a lot of dogs without water, without shade. It's true. When I'm on the beach, I do see that. I'm not afraid of dogs, but when I go to the beach, I want to relax. I don't want to have to worry about, is that dog going to get off leash, or they're going to let it leash because it's barking at a smaller dog. My husband witnessed one where a couple with their little dog was relaxing on the beach, and this big dog, barking and pulling, just wanted to get to it, whether to play with it or attack, who knows. And the young couple left with their dog. We don't want to scare people away from our beaches by either having dogs there or not having them there. I have a question as to who patrols when the dogs are out on the beach, I've seen twice, I've seen guys on these little all-terrain vehicles stop and speak to people that had dogs with them. Neither of these people left the beach with their dog. Now, I don't know who patrols this, who is gonna be out there saying, you have a dog, we have a dog law here, from 9 a.m. to 6, you can't be on the beach. But I see it all day long. And like the other people said, you can't expect our police department to go out there when there are far more important things for them to take care of. So I am against it. I have all kinds of notes here, but that's probably, and I agree with almost everything that was said here earlier. So incorporate that into it. Okay?
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Sherry DeBerry. I live at 2000 New Bern Street in KDH. I have a black lab and a new puppy, and our dogs love going to the beach. I appreciate that you all have put doggy bags up on the 5th Street access, although I bring my own because I don't want my daughter stepping in the download. So, I am for the dogs being on the beach, allowed on the beach, but I do believe that the 9 to 6 curfew in reverse is good because it does protect the animals from being overheated during the summer months. I believe that the people that are idiots, that are dog owners, that don't provide dog water for the dogs or an umbrella, that kind of protects the dog when the owner won't. I also keep my dogs on a leash. Now, when Forrest is out in the ocean, he's on a 20-foot lead line, so he can chase after his ball and jump the waves, and I don't necessarily have to be cold and wet. But I believe that they should have a leash law. I've been attacked by a boxer that was loose, not down here, but it changes your thought of seeing a loose dog come at you. So I believe that the way it states is from 9 to 6 during Memorial Day to Labor Day, and that the leash law is there. I think that's important to hold that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others like to speak? Yes, sir?
Yeah, just briefly. I'm Skip Jones, been living in this area since the 70s. I've had golden retrievers my whole life, not one right now because the last one passed away in the fall. There's been some great points tonight. Mr. Fabian, I hadn't even thought about that one, but that was a good point he made. About property lines and all that. I hadn't even thought of that. So far, it seems like Nags Head and Kitty Hawk, we haven't heard any big, huge issues they've been having. I mean, most of the issues I'm hearing tonight is bad pet owners. I mean, why don't we just disallow stupid dog owners? We'll have one problem. I mean, I really think, and it could be hurting our economy a little bit here because I think people do have to go to Nags Head or Kitty Hawk or wherever just because they want to take their pet on the beach. I've had some issues in the past, a loose dog, attacking my dog too, and I've dealt with it. You just have to, a lot of it's communication, I think. Maybe a sign, dogs allowed, but please be careful about water and dog paws and all that stuff. But, basically it boils down to the owner. It's not the dog's the problem, it's the owner's the problem. So I think we should, communicate that and enforcement, we probably need to work the enforcement out a little bit better because there is a lot of times dogs loose. I don't know where the 30-foot came from. Is that?
Someone's comment.
Yeah, I don't know where it's never been 30 foot that I know of. So anyway, maybe a little bit better enforcement, but I am for dogs on the beach year round. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Hi, my name's James Olney, 900 9th Avenue. I had to write a couple of my notes down. I want to start out by saying that I am a dog owner. I have 2 dogs. I love I've taken my dogs to the beach before in off hours and off season. I've heard of several arguments about why we should allow dogs on the beach. From our neighboring towns allow it, to our lifeguards have more to worry about, to the no dog ordinance is hard to enforce. So I want to kind of just take them one at a time. I noticed that Dare County itself does not require a dog to be on a leash as long as it's under the control of its owner. And since unincorporated Dare, Collington is our neighbor, we consider doing away with our leash law. I think nobody would agree with that. After spending more than 2 decades as a public servant, I have great respect for anyone that serves the public, and at times with great personal risk. But I do want them to be adept at multitasking. In the more than 30 years that I've vacationed and lived here, I've seen lifeguards leave the stands for more than water-related emergencies. I realize that there may be necessary for them to make a notification when they do, but that's just a simple radio transmission. I also know that bad situations happen in an instant, but I'm sure that our highly trained guards are always on the alert whether they're in the stand or out. An explanation to our residents, our vacationers or residents in some cases, is all that it would take. In the event that more needs to be done, letting them know the next step is to call the police or animal control. Then the guard heads back to the stand, makes the notification if necessary, removing them from the situation. This ordinance is just like any of our other nuisance ordinances, that it's complaint driven, so that if many people want dogs on the beach, I'm sure there won't be many complaints. There's little time for everybody to have to deal with it. But if there is a need to deal with this, then I feel like it's a necessary chore, just like any other task given to our town employees. I'd like to also, I agree with the dog owners. It's generally the bad dog owners that, they don't bring water, they don't clean up after their dogs. All you have to do is walk through our neighborhoods and realize that we have the little pet stations. That doesn't make sure that everybody uses the pet stations. It doesn't make any difference whether they're there or not. In closing, I'd just like to ask the commissioners to keep this ordinance in place.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Jim.
Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I just want to address a couple issues, concerns. I've read all the emails from the public that you guys had in your packet, and I appreciate the public coming out in numbers as they have, because they're passionate. Whichever side you're on, you're passionate about it. And of course, you said in your opening statement that you appreciated that, and as do I. The first concern that I want to address is the lifeguards. We're a team, we work good with the fire department and the lifeguards, and we've asked them, because we have 2 animal control officers full-time, and normally 1 on duty a day. So they're busy handling calls, cleaning the kennels, and doing their daily stuff, and they can't be on the beach all day. So we've asked the fire chief to ask his lifeguards to kind of monitor, educate people, that if they see a dog, if they have time, if they're not large numbers of people in the water, and they have time, or they have roaming supervisors, to just educate people, because a lot of people are visitors and they don't know that we have no dogs on the beach during those hours. So they do occasionally do that, but we don't expect that. And then if they have a problem, which a lot of times they get some grief from those dog owners, and so then they just radio to their supervisor, which calls their central, and then we dispatch animal control to take care of the situation. But we don't expect the lifeguards to do it. They do it as a courtesy to us, because we can't be there all the time. The second thing is enforcement. And I suspect that we're having this discussion because at the beginning of the season, animal control was out there just about every day educating people, and letting them know, hey, you're not supposed to be on the beach during these hours. And I think it has been some complaints, even to my office, which people think they're entitled, and most of them were locals, thinking they're entitled to that time on the beach. Well, it's our job to enforce the ordinance as it's written, not to second guess it or not to debate it. It's our job to enforce it. So if we enforce it, then we're the bad guys. If we don't enforce it, we're the bad guys. So we just need some guidance from you guys to make our job easier to either enforce it or not. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Chief. I think what we'll, and I appreciate you speaking, I think, oops, my mic's not on, sorry. Thank you. I think what we'll do is when we get to the agenda item, if you don't mind, we may call you back up as we have board discussion, but I appreciate your comments, and hopefully we will have answers by the end of the evening. So, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Would anybody else like to speak? I think that may be it.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much for all of you who spoke this evening. We're going to move forward with our agenda. We typically do a response to public comment, but since this was kind of a collective public comment on a specific topic, and we have that topic scheduled on the agenda, then we will address this and have board discussion at that time. Fortunately, it's not a heavy agenda, so we'll move right along, and we'll be there in probably less than 5 minutes or so. So we'll actually skip right on down then to our first item under new business. This is item number 1A, the site plan review. And Meredith, may I turn that over to you?
I'm actually gonna turn it over to Brian.
Oh, Brian, sorry, Brian, there you are.
Review on the site plan.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Yes, so new business item number 1 is a site plan review submitted by Galassa Holdings LLC to construct a 50 square foot retail and restaurant development at 1900 South Croatan Highway in the commercial zone. June 21st, the planning board reviewed this and forwarded it to you all with a favorable recommendation with 2 conditions. One was the light pole being dangerously close to the dumpster enclosure, and the second one was to adjust the handicap ramp to meet minimum separation requirements between the top of the ramp and the building. The revised plan that's in your packet corrects both of those issues, and staff recommends approval of the plan as presented. John DeLucia is here as the project engineer and can answer any technical questions you might have.
Great. Thank you, Brian, and welcome, John.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks.
Discussion, comments, questions for John?
That looks pretty good to me.
Okay, then a motion would be in order.
I make a motion that we approve the site plan that's been submitted by Galassa Holdings LLC.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you all very much. Have a nice
Thank
evening.
you.
Thanks, Sean.
We're already back to dogs on the beach. Okay, so we're back now. Item number 2 under new business is our discussion now for dogs on the beach. So we'll open it up to, and just, I mean, we may call on some staff for, we've got our ocean rescue supervisor here, fire chief, police chief, assistant chief, so we may be calling on staff for questions, but this is really at this time the board to discuss this and kind of weigh in on what we think is the best decision. So just procedurally, that's what will happen. So open the floor for comments and discussion
Okay,
or questions.
Dave Elbert, I was wondering if I could ask him a
Yeah,
question.
no, just-
He's the lifeguard guy.
Absolutely. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Dave is our ocean rescue supervisor for anyone has not met Dave before.
So if we allow dogs on the beach, do you feel that it'll make it easier for you guys to ask them to clean up after the dogs, as opposed to having to tell them they have to leave?
The situation we're in right now is, it's very difficult for me as a non-enforcement person working with other people underneath me as non-enforcement people to expect compliance when we are only able to advise of the law. And I'm not suggesting that I want to be enforcement in any way, shape, or form, but it's one of those things where when when someone comes to us with an issue, or we notice that an issue is pending because of body language, behavior, etc., we will inform, and the expectation is compliance, but I don't carry a stick, and so that's a bit of an issue. People will move into a situation of starting to bargain at that point. So, does that take you anywhere close to where you understand the situation? It's very gray. I live in a black and white world, but I'm happen to be in the grayest portion of it because we are right on top of each other, and property lines and other issues. There's all kinds of mixing items out there. You have public accesses with advisories, with chapter and verse of rules and regulations, and then you have other private properties with nothing, and they may be pet friendly. So it is a situation where, depending on how you approach the beach, you will get different messages. And Mr. Fabricant is a prime example of that. There are pet-friendly hotels, there are pet-friendly houses, there are pet-friendly people. So it's real gray, but it's one of those things where it's far easier for me to say, get your dog under control, than it is to say, get your dog under control and get off the beach.
Any other questions for Dave?
I don't know if it would be you, Dave, or it might be Chief Britt. Do we have a record of how many complaints we might have had so far, where animal control has actually had to be dispatched?
I have senior animal control Louie Reber here. He might not have the exact totals, but he can give you around an estimate.
Now, we don't have a exact number, as far as complaints, but as far as violators, when we do patrols, I mean, it's probably 50 people, 40 people, if you were to stay all day within the time frame that they're not supposed to be there. And we are dog friendly, so anything after 6 and before 9.
Questions?
I think it would be logical and, to me, inevitable that if dogs were allowed on the beach during the hours of 9 to 6, that whatever problems might be occurring now with the ones that shouldn't be there, they would multiply with the number of dogs increasing, and dog owners, whether responsible or not. So I don't think increasing, if you have X number of dogs that are out there now that aren't supposed to be, and if you increase that by whatever factor, it could very easily increase the issues, the problems by the same factor. I don't see why we should put ourselves in that position. Excuse me. I think the lifeguards, obviously their first priority is life-saving. I think anything that distracts them in any way, that takes them away from reacting to those kind of things in a timely manner is a good thing for us. I think we need to have them, obviously, like Dave said, they're not law enforcement, they don't want to be law enforcement. And they're out there to save lives, and I think that's what they should be doing.
Comment on liability. This might be for you as well. I mean, if there's a dog bite anywhere within the city limits as it is, beach notwithstanding, the town is not currently liable for that, right? So it wouldn't change necessarily just because it happens to be on sand versus pavement, right?
Certainly, that would certainly be our position.
Several emails seem to be kind of centered around increasing town's liability. I just wanted to clear that up. Thank you.
Mary or Sean, I'm sorry, people may not know, Sean is filling in for Debbie. Sean is our assistant town manager. Debbie's not with us this evening, but you guys may know the history of when it was backed up to May 1st versus Memorial Day to Labor Day timeline. Do you guys recall?
2006, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm sorry I don't have that packet in front of me of the rationale of why that decision was made. Because I think some people were still under the impression, which is why we did kind of a few extra media releases at the start of the season, which also kind of got this discussion rolling a little bit. Because a lot of people were under the impression that it was Memorial Day to Labor Day. Currently, the ordinance that's in place, it's May 1st to September 30th each year, not Memorial Day to Labor Day. But I figured while we're talking about this ordinance, we should talk about all of it.
The Labor Day part has not been in effect for a long, long time. It's my memory has always been September 30th.
As long as I've been here, it seems like, from 1989, May 15th, September the 15th. As far as animals not being allowed on the beach.
When the ordinance was changed to allow until 9 and after 6, prior to that, dogs weren't allowed at all in the summer months. That was a change to allow dogs to be on the beach during that time frame.
Introduce the timeline.
So the timeline was introduced to be more lenient, to allow the dogs in the summer season, but restrict the time frames, if I remember correctly.
Is that 2006, I believe?
It's either 2005 or 2006. Mary's looking that up for you.
I have it, yeah.
April 10th, 2006.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that when a couple of citizens brought this topic to me, probably a month and a half ago to look into, and one was Ms. Welch and one was Ms. Armistead, I said that I'd be happy to look into it. And when we first, brought it to a meeting and we're looking at this in very simplistic terms and without a lot of input, I was leaning towards this being a pretty easy decision to just open it up and not have it and be consistent with our neighbors. Because I thought, one, consistency would be good, be easier for people. And I also, a part of me does not like being labeled the town that's the most restrictive in anything. That's just be an ego thing. I don't like that. But that being said, I have read every single email, and not only read them, I started names because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't, if they were duplicates, that I was looking into that. Because heading into the first part of the weekend, I thought there were more people supporting this change, those that had expressed, and I really went by emails, not worried about the blogs and that, so really people that have taken the time to reach out and communicate with the town, either directly to the board or through staff. But in looking at that, I was honestly really surprised when I was going back through the numbers this morning and then so adding in the comments here that not counting emails, counting names or family names, that it's 50 that are opposing this change, and 23 that have expressed an interest to have it changed. Or a couple of those 23 were saying, or if not, compromise the time a little. So maybe instead of 9, give 1 extra hour and make it 10, because not a lot of people go out to the beach at 9 a.m. and if we were trying to put it in based on hours. So anyway, that really did change. Even I was having a conversation on the beach this weekend with some folks, and I really at that point was thinking, still should open up. But in looking at these numbers, it's a significant majority that are opposed to us opening this up and having dogs at all times on our beaches. And so I really am at this point leaning towards not opening it. I'm one of 5 votes. My vote would be not to open it up, but I would not be opposed to looking at making it 10 o'clock. But Dave, what time do you guys take the stands?
We're at 10.
At 10. Take the stands, and what time do you?
We're off the stands at 5:30.
At 5:30. Okay. And what's your start date on the stand?
Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Your Memorial Day, right? So something maybe even though that's not, they are not responsible. I think that's one thing that we need to work on our messaging too, because I think the expectation of beachgoers, and especially people that follow ordinances, which that's great, we like that, is that you all are the ones that are policing this, and that's not. You're assisting our police department with communication, but your first responsibility.
I don't understand.
I thank you for that point of view, but it's also in a complaint-driven situation such as we have here, we're going to get the complaints, and we will do the best we can as we can. But we, as you've also said, we're not going to be everywhere, and it can seem quite fickle for us to be coded for enforcement, because when things are happening and we are looking more at safety and population in water, or population on hot sand, as we have had the last few days, it's down on our priority list.
Absolutely. So that's where I am at this point.
And I'm right there with you. And when we first had this conversation, I was right where you were. In fact, personally, I didn't have an opinion one way or the other. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge dog lover, and I would have really leaned probably towards allowing the dogs to be there year-round, because I tend to think that everybody treats their dog like I treat my dog. But after getting these emails and listening to people, I'm here because I want to do the will of the number of people that have put us up here. So I have to concede with what Sheila said and go with, I would have to be against it at this point, just simply because the sheer numbers. There's absolutely, and I understand that the people who, we were talking about this earlier, the people who have emailed us are vehemently on one side or the other. And I really wish there was a way to fix it all. And maybe we can work with those numbers a little bit, like you were talking about with the times, to fix that a little bit and move it to 10:30 or 10 o'clock to 5:30. Maybe those extra hours will help a little bit. But at this point, there's no way I could vote to open it up.
And when I had done my original assessment on the emails, the number of emails, it was the first wave of emails at least there were more folks for it than against it, which I thought was interesting. One thing that I would support would be making it a Memorial Day to Labor Day and giving a little bit of extra time. That would be one thing that I would offer up as a compromise. I'm not interested in, and when we say we're against changing what we already have. I just want to make that clear. That would be my position versus being, against making any changes at all. I would like to see a little bit of carrot.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me, what you said. I wouldn't also be opposed to having designated access, if that was in our realm of possibilities, but.
Yeah, and I thought, on the surface, that sounds like a good idea, but how far does that stretch?
Right.
How do you, and then, goodness, just creating another police issue with making more gray. I'm trying not to have more gray.
Yeah, I know it would be so much easier, Dave, if we just said we're gonna do the same thing that Nags Head and Kitty Hawk did. Because that's when we first had this conversation, that was, my first thought was, we just need to do what our neighbors are doing, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. But that's not what y'all are telling us. I've heard this, I see the nods, it's that you're very clear.
Yeah, if we take one access for the dogs, and we go from having individual dogs to a pack of dogs.
Yes, oh, yeah.
No, I say that jokingly, but that thought came to my mind too, but then I thought about it a little more, and it was like, I don't know if that would work or not. Because how big of an area would you need, and some other things. As far as changing it to Memorial Day, Labor Day, I'd like to think about that a little bit. By implication, I wouldn't necessarily want the times to coincide with when the lifeguards are there, because it might give an impression that they have something to do with it. And they shouldn't, other than what they do now, even sometimes reluctantly, but what they feel like they need to do right now, so that might be a consideration also.
Staff have any other comments or thoughts that you all want to share? Maybe the staff that are here.
I do have one other comment. If a dog beach would target the people who use that beach, and that is going to be a bit of a lightning rod as well.
I'm sorry, say that
If
again?
if you sanction one area as a dog beach, the people are going to feel victimized in that one area. So that's going to make it a bit of a rub as well.
We definitely hear from those property owners. Yes. One way or the other.
I don't think we've had a meeting where I've heard the word poop as much. Or download, I like that.
Well, I would like, since we're going to talk about that, I think this is this is interesting.
Are you going to say poop?
I'm going to say defecate. But if anyone has not taken the time to read our ordinance, it's section 94.08, specifically defecating on private or public property. It's really interesting to me because I was having a discussion with folks on how in the world would you ever police that. But it's very interesting. Our ordinance is incredibly strict on this, that it's not about seeing, it's about dog owners being responsible and even carrying you're either responsible for displaying, presenting, showing, or otherwise providing evidence of possession of a container to remove the poop once your dog defecates. So I thought that was really interesting. So, not that we want to have to go up to every dog owner that's walking a dog, but if you're being a responsible dog owner, which is what you should be if you're going to have a dog, that you should have, and we have a dog, and we just tie the poop bag to the leash, and it's on there, so we always have one, so it's right there. But basically we can cite or provide citation, civil citation, to folks that are not properly cared, or they don't even have something to clean up after the dog, whether the dog has pooped or not, because if they don't carry the container, they're probably not going to be cleaning up after their dog. So I point that out for everyone's reference on, we cannot have our staff, whether it's, fire, police, rescue, whatever, animal control, they cannot be eyes throughout the community at all times. We need citizens to help us with that policing, so to speak. So if you're calling and, if you find people that are not being responsible dog owners, we do need to hear about that, because that's the only way we can address the issue if we're not there to see it at all times. And we could never have enough people on the street, police officers, animal control. You would never want your taxes high enough to pay for the people you would need to see that. We'd never be advocating for that. But I just thought that I had not read that ordinance until reading this packet, and I was like, whoever wrote that many years ago, it was very well done, because it's very detailed and specific to prevent some of the issues that we're having.
Just as a point of information, in our time, we have 43 what we call dog pot stations, and 27 of them are at beach locations. So it shouldn't be any problem with people getting a bag if they happen to forget theirs. That was interesting. I read that too. They can be cited for not having a bag.
And burying it is not, that's prohibited in the ordinance as well. So that is not considered cleaning up after your pet, burying it. Or putting it in the ocean. That is prohibited as well. So, all right, so what is the pleasure of the board at this point?
Whatever we need to think about, if we want to change the times, or?
We certainly can. We can make
Why don't we think about it for a while and put it on the agenda in the future, and revisit it. But don't take any action now, I wouldn't suggest.
Can we, I doubt anyone's in favor at this point of changing much more than that. Can we limit what we actually table and look at in the future? So maybe, instead of opening it all up and getting all the emotions back up, having it be whether we are going to consider dates and time changes.
Well, let me ask you this question, because, for those who have invested the time and all the public comment, I think tabling it without any specifics, I think is really vague. I'd rather put some specifics around it if we can. But I recognize that if you're looking at making the big time change as far as the months, I mean, and, you know, that probably opens it back up again. There was discussion about changing 1 hour to making it start at 10 instead of allowing it till 10 instead of 9. I just don't know, I mean, if people are comfortable making that as a decision, and then whether or not you want to, weigh in on it, please.
May I say something there? I'm not for or against either or, adding time to it. But if I'm not mistaken, aren't the signs already posted with times and dates?
Yeah, anything we do is not gonna be able
And
to
that
do.
would be a cost incurred by the town. And there would have to be a grace period where we have to educate the public again. So that's gonna take several months, probably next year, before we can start enforcing it, so. It's something
Next season.
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, so the major issues are the days, as in May to September,
When to start and stop.
and the hours. So, is there anything else besides those two issues that we would need to consider, think about in the meantime? Or I don't think there's anything exotic we're gonna try to do other than that.
So I think the board's position then is that this board is seated, is not interested in moving forward with opening up, allowing dogs on the beach all day. The board is interested in looking at possibly expanding the time of day, that period, and possibly expanding the time, the start and stop time.
So,
But really, if any of those changes are done, it would need to be for next beach season, not in the middle of the current season, because signage is out, everyone's been trained, the enforcement's in place, and you have to communicate with folks so they know.
should I make a motion to table it? Do we need a motion? Consensus.
Would you like to put a timeline on when you want to revisit it?
Motion or consensus?
Just consensus. I think we can bring it back to the board at a future meeting to be discussed, or to be, to expand the hours. And we can make the effective date for the following season.
So it would be in our minutes that we discussed those two things, right? So okay.
And I would suggest that we would be revisiting that sooner rather than later, in the sense of in the early fall at the latest, because
We can schedule it
October.
for the,
maybe our first meeting in October.
that would
But
give
we
us-
also have, every October, we also have the public forum. But we wanna make sure that if we are making a change, there's enough time to get other sign changes and Brian, are you thinking? No? Okay.
If we do September, that would still give us the entire season, so that if we had complaints that we needed to be made aware of, or numbers or anything else that we wanted to have looked at, we'd have the bulk of the season have had happened at that point. So at least Labor Day, by our meeting.
Well, right now we go all the way till
We
September.
are expecting a big meeting in September because the coyote issue is coming up. And we'll have a representative from the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission come.
So the first meeting in October.
And that could work in your favor as well, because you could certainly speak to the people that might be attending that meeting and let them know, that would be coming up, or you could use them at that meeting to get more input if you wanted to.
What about the first one?
Yeah, because the second meeting is the public forum.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so consensus, you have enough direction? First meeting in October?
Okay.
And that's when we will be looking to follow up on the discussion on times and span of the season. So, for all of those of you who attended tonight, if you have a feeling, if you have comments that you would like to make regarding that, what we may be looking at, possibly playing around with the time of day or playing around with the season. What's the start date and stop date when we enforce the time? Please let us hear from you again, because we do take your input, whether it's email or showing up in person. I hope you feel that we did hear your voices and that we listened to you and that it did impact our decision.
Do you have the date of that meeting, Betsy?
It would be the second Monday in October, I believe. Oh, but we will get that date for you. One moment.
October 10.
That is also Columbus Day, but we still meet, so just you know.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, everybody okay? We'll move forward. Next item on our agenda is item number 3A. This is a recommended amendment to Chapter 31, Boards and Commissions, Section 31.02, specific to the Planning Board, on membership, terms, vacancy, attendance. And this amendment is to place the responsibility for removal of members for lack of attendance on the Board of Commissioners. In your packet on the back page of that section, it's page 1 of 2. It's where one sentence is stricken and one is added. Paragraph D, thank you. So instead of the majority of the planning board members may recommend to the Board of Commissioners, it would be the Board of Commissioners may take action to remove any planning board member who misses more than 1/3 of the meetings during any 12-month period. I think just from hearing, if you guys recall, we had asked for an attendance count because we had heard maybe that there were some attendance issues. And I think this is the only board that's dealt with that way. And we actually make the appointments to that board. So it seems a bit odd that even though we make the appointments, the way this reads, we're putting the responsibility on those planning board members to make recommendations to terminate a member. And that actually can be a bit awkward, I would think, for them trying to pit, one, because you have to get a majority. And so I think we're just setting up a potentially divisive environment by doing that. And I think since we're ultimately the entity that's appointing those board members, this ordinance change makes sense from that perspective, that we would make a change if a change is warranted.
Yeah, I know Howard can recall, Howard was chairman of the planning board for some time, as I was, and I'm sure you'll feel like I do, it was an awkward situation when we had to deal with a situation like that. So I think this is better to blame it on us.
If I was chairman of the planning board, I would say you're absolutely right.
Great. Any discussions on that suggestion, or on that proposed amendment? A motion would be in order?
I make a motion that we approve this change as presented.
Is a motion to approve the proposed amendment? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Then item 3B is an appointment to the planning board, the regular term. This is to fill the vacancy that's been created with Chris Shea's relocation out of the area. And Mayor Pro Tem, I think you were
Yeah, we have,
involved in this.
we had, I believe, two individuals that expressed a desire, and I think we just got one more recently. I had spoken to one of them that had applied a few weeks ago. John Windley is the manager at Walgreens, and he's spoken to me many times in the past about public service. He was in public service for a long time before he got into the business he's in now. I think he'd be a good fit for our planning board. And I would like to make a nomination for John Windley for the planning board position.
Comments, questions? There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Well, he will be excited. I think he'll be a great representative. Okay, we are on to Commissioner's agenda. Commissioner Midget?
Fireworks look very good this year. It seems like the police have the system down and it looked like everything ran smoothly. Is that right? That was a very good job. And that's all for me.
Yeah, we got out of there in no time, got home. It's great.
Mayor Pritchett?
Yeah, I had, been going to the beach since my wife's retired, going to the beach a little more often. Whenever we have to park in the lot that's across the beach road, you have to cross, Ocean Bay, and there's no signal there. To get to where the signal is at Stop and Shop to go across to the parking, to the beach access. So if you went straight across from the parking lot to the beach access, there's no crossing there either. So that where all those cars are and all those people come from, they're kind of isolated. They either have to take their chances either way to get to the existing crosswalk. And I don't know how the state feels about having one on either side, or having one cross Ocean Bay to Stop and Shop and then going and crossing that way. I think that, I've seen them like configured like that. I think that might be something we could use there.
Like a four-way stop button.
Now, I think if you're leaving the parking lot and you're ready to go across Ocean Bay, you could have one of the signals you push and give you the walk sign. Walk south over to where Stop and Shop is, there's a signal there, and you signal, and then you get your green light, you go across that way. That way you don't have to cross at a place where there's no crosswalk.
So I'm sorry, I know which axes you're talking about, but I'm trying to visualize. So, I mean, is this something you think NCDOT needs to look at?
Yeah, if you're at the parking lot and
Right,
the remote lot,
okay.
and you wanna go over to the beach access,
Mhm.
there's not a crosswalk there, across the beach road. And if you wanna go from that same corner over to, south over to Stop and Shop, there's no crosswalk there. I mean, there's stripes, but there's no crosswalk sign.
There's no light.
There's not a push button, is that what you're saying?
There's not a push
Okay,
button.
because there's a crosswalk.
Yeah, there's stripes, yeah. There's not a push button.
There's a push button on the ocean side.
Right, there's a push button from the Stop and Shop to the parking lot, to the beach access.
There's a pedestrian signal to get you east to west and west to east. There's not one to get you north to south or south to north from the parking lot to Stop and Shop or Stop and Shop to the parking lot.
I'm gonna give you a visual on top.
Right,
Yeah, thank you.
okay. But east to west.
Anyway, I don't know,
But there's a crosswalk.
The extended shoulder gets you across Ocean Bay. There is a striped crosswalk on the south side of that intersection to get you east to west.
Do you think there's any value in asking NCDOT to look at it?
I think my understanding was that they're
Or is
going
that
to do a crosswalk study for
Yeah, we're
the
in,
length of the beach
I
road.
believe Steve Albright would be the best person to ask about
Okay.
this, but they're doing a crosswalk study that we've requested
for all?
because of the crosswalk signs that we want to, that the board wanted to consider.
Mhm.
We're trying to get this for you guys to look at, of course, it's decided to.
So this, but what they're doing,
Okay.
because we've asked them to look at where we could place the
And
crosswalk signs, they're looking at all of our crosswalks anyway, these intersections.
I'm not sure, again, Public Services is coordinating with DOT about, and the town engineer about looking at the crosswalks, but, I'll surely speak to Steve tomorrow and see if he can't contact the engineer that's doing the work and ask him to specifically look at the situation we have here at Ocean Bay while he's out. They're doing a study that's gonna be Nags Head, Kettle Hills, and Kitty Hawk, because I think all the towns after Kettle Hills started wanted the possibility of those enhanced pedestrian crossings. And so they're trying to get a handle on how many, where would be most effective. Town, cost and things like that. Is my understanding of it, and my understanding is extremely limited, on this study, so. But
I think that's a great suggestion to have Steve look at it and then follow it.
I agree.
If they're looking, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, so they can pay extra attention to that with the study. Since you have more time now to spend there. Anything else this evening?
No, that's it, thank you.
Moving on to mayor agenda, one item this evening, and Mayor, I'm gonna get you to help me though, kind of explain this. I wanted to talk a little bit about the part of grant that we're looking at, well, not grant, but the funding, that we're looking at in the meeting that's coming up in August. I know we're working on, there's a, recreation, it's a state-appointed recreation committee.
The grant that was applied for by the town was a Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant, which is funneled through the North Carolina, Park Service. And they have a staff that only does grants, and we applied to finish the grant, finish the bike path on Bay Drive, which would go from First Street to Avalon. And they have a Parks and Recreation Authority, which is I believe an 8-member board that is seated after the budget is approved, so they know how much money is, because it's in the state budget how much money this particular grant funding is. They've set the meeting for August the 25th to decide on the projects that will be funded through the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant. Last year we applied, we were not funded. We've expanded the project, and we applied again. So our representative lives in Chelan County, and I'll be looking for some support from the mayor and the board. Citizen support is obviously important. One thing that I got from our staff member last year is I can have this guy's phone ring off the hook, and that's not actually advantageous. Emails maybe, letters. I don't have email addresses. They don't give out their email addresses. I only have mailing address. But we would obviously appreciate any support that the community would like to give towards our grant and how important it is. I tried to, Brian and I worked on the grant. We tried to convey through our description how well used the existing portions are and how it's the last link to finish the Corolla to Oregon Inlet bike path and things like that. But if we get to do this project, it will complete. And the new bridge, it'll actually give us almost 83 miles of designated pedestrian or bicycle paths. So it's a big link.
It's a huge link, and the funding would enable us to try to finish up the whole project on Bay Drive. Anyway, I wanted Meredith to be able to explain that, because we will be putting out probably an email to some of our listservs and whatnot with the address encouraging members of the community to write letters to our representative, to try to encourage them. And then we may be looking for just a small group who wants to go to Raleigh on the 25th to that meeting. So it's a public meeting on the 25th, and I would think that could be incredibly powerful to have people from Hittable Hills there passionately speaking about the need to go ahead and complete this and how important this is and how many people will benefit from being able to finish this last.
25th of this month?
No, the 25th of August. So, anyway, thank you. Appreciate you.
And we'll get that information to you very soon.
Great. And then we'll help get it out to the public as well. But I've had several people ask, when are we gonna finish? When are we gonna finish? And this would move it up on the priority list for us to be able to finish it, because we would have the funding attached to it. There are matching funds that have to be put with it, but we would be able to do.
And we're gonna, yes.
We would be able to do that. So this is big for our town. Thank you. Okay, with that, town manager's agenda.
Don't have anything.
Okay, town attorney's agenda.
Nothing for me.
The consent agenda.
Yes. There's 3 items on the consent agenda: the minutes from the June 22nd meeting, There's a report on the disposition of surplus property, which between May 6, 2015 and June 30th of 2016, the town realized $180,011.83 in revenue from the sale of surplus property. On gov deals, and another dollar was paid when police K-9 Inca had been retired due to injury. So approval of the consent agenda will record this information in the minutes. And then the agreement for legal services and appointment of the town attorney, approval of the consent agenda will record the board's approval of the attached agreement for legal services and appointment of Casey Barnell as the town attorney. So staff recommends approval of the consent agenda, so then submitted a motion will be in order.
Thank you. Any discussion, comments? Motion?
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. This is the second time, that should actually be public comment. This is the second time that's set aside on our agenda for public comment. Is there anyone that's still with us this evening that would wish to speak to the board again? Okay. Well, it's my son's birthday, so I don't mind us going ahead and ending things. With that, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody.